Hello, guys. My name is Munnith, and I'll be your host for this Smogcast today. We have a very special interview with the two managers of the Wi-Fi Wolfpack, D4 Repertoire and zioziotrip. Do you guys think you could briefly introduce yourselves to the audience?
For sure. I'm D4. I'm one of the managers of the Wolfpack, as you mentioned, and I got started playing competitive Pokemon in 2019 when my friend explained to me what it was, because I didn't even know that the scene existed beyond Wi-Fi battles. And so followed a couple of YouTube channels from there. Ended up in Sword and Shield, joining kind of early in that, joining Smogon for a suspect test. And from there, slowly got into the tournament scene afterward, particularly after finding out about GSC.
I'm zioziotrip. I've been playing since like 2019, 2020. I started playing. I've been like on and off ladder for a while, but I started getting to Smogon because of 1v1 because I kept DCing from OU matches when I would play in classes. But 1v1 was nice and easy, bro. It takes like 2 minutes and you're done. But yeah, no, that's how I got into Smogon, and then through freak accident beat Roro and OST. And then got into a World Cup team, and I've been playing official since.
I'm super excited to interview you guys. I'm going to start by asking you guys a couple of questions about your team and then move on to some general SPL questions. First question. What brand do you guys want people to associate with the Wi-Fi Wolfpack this season? Obviously, it's one of the most storied franchises in SPL history, and you guys have a different background than the managers that typically manage this team. So I'd love to hear what you guys are going for.
Yeah, something that we're going for this season and that managed to achieve with the draft is a really well-rounded team that gives the opponents no breathing room. Every single game, every single slot, they're going to have a really hard time getting a win off of us. And so we're just going to keep up the pressure with all 12 games week after week with a really well-rounded attack. Got a really balanced distribution of players and a lot of talent in every tier.
I think the Wi-Fi Wolfpack has a bit of a reputation as the boomer team, and we're not looking to change that impression at all. We have multiple users in their 30s, and most of the team is in their late 20s, which is quite the boomer squad, and I'm quite happy with that to uphold the long-standing Wolfpack tradition.
Yeah, so the auction is always a tricky time for managers, especially newer managers. Do you feel like there was a huge steal that you guys got away with in the auction?
For sure. I mean, the most obvious one that immediately comes to mind is Kulia, because we thought that he would be significantly more expensive than he ended up being, and he was a flat 3K, which I never conceived that we'd be able to get him for. So we were really happy about that when it happened.
There's a lot of like SV and I mean, kind of all the fairy gens. We had a lot of players mark at 15k or like around 15k that just went for 10 or under 10. Like Bleach, Fade, Ewin, especially, all ended up around 10k when they could have easily gone to 15.
What pool do you guys feel was the most challenging to plan for this SPL? I'm moving into the general question section now.
Yeah, one thing that we mentioned is us particularly. Going into it, we felt good about the direction that we wanted to go with Oras, but it was really hard to ascertain what the rest of the pool would look like, kind of how those prices would turn out, and then in case anyone else was going the same route that we were, like what we wanted as far as the alternatives go. So we were really happy that we were able to get the option Bluebird that we set out for from the outset, but it was definitely like a hard pool to get a good grasp of compared to a lot of the other ones.
Mm-hmm. What do you guys feel like were the biggest surprises during the auction this year? It's always a little weird, but I feel like this year in particular had some strange stuff happening.
Yeah, something that comes to mind immediately for me, especially because we were partially involved in it, was some of the Tyrants big buys that were somewhat telegraphed, because they're the similar players that they had spent a lot of money on in previous years. Solon, they spent more than 30k on last year, and BKC the year before was one of their biggest buys, and so they went for both those this year, but the bidding really slowed down on them earlier than we were expecting it to, and we were at prices that we would have been very happy getting both those players, so we ended up being the ones to put push up that price a lot higher, but I expected a lot more teams to be involved in it. And with how low the timer was getting down, I don't think that it was a matter of other teams who were staying out of it just because we were also bidding. But the other teams seemed generally content to let the Tyrants get Solon and BKC for maybe like 4K less than they ended up going for to them. And I think too, if someone really wanted to like push it or metagame it, they really could have pushed the Tyrants higher on Solon in particular, because that's super obvious.
Adding on to that, I think it was Solwind, or not Sol, sorry, McMegan and Conflict, who both also went just like stopped at 30 dead. They all stopped at 30. Usually there's some 35 to 40 player, but this auction nobody even pushed past 30. And I remember distinctly, like, there was very few people even pushing past 20 on any of those players. It was essentially just 2 or 3 teams bidding on them, which is kind of surprising because those are usually very easy upbids. And it's one of those things where it's even if the upbid fails, it go like, I don't know, you can't complain about getting conflict.
That's for sure.
Do you guys feel like this is a symptom of managers wising up to the fact that it's really hard to build a team with a 35, 40K player just because of how much that hamstrings your depth?
I think definitely could be. I know, like, we built a roster around super expensive ABR last year, so I have some first-hand experience with going like both routes, that route and the more balanced route. And it's obviously, overall like draft dependent, how confident you are and able to be getting those 3K steals in order to like be able to get in under the right funds. And just depends on a lot of various factors as well as the player you ended up getting. But yeah, it is definitely possible that people have sort of become less enamored with getting the biggest name possible and a lot more worried about price.
Mm-hmm. And what do you guys feel like is the biggest storyline that you'll be following this season? This question is a personal favorite of mine.
As a GSC player and someone who on the SPL I played with Tony and ABR, and this time their 3K pick is Mr. Soup. So I'll be excited to watch how the Bigs do in GSC this season. I think that'll be a very interesting storyline to watch for sure.
I'm curious to see how the defending champs, the Tyrants, perform after last year. So they have a somewhat similar draft, but they're missing a lot of key pieces, and well, some key pieces. It's not like it's totally different, but I don't know. I'm curious to see how the Tyrants do relative to last year as the defending champs.
I do feel like the Bigs and the Tyrants are probably the consensus 2 most compelling teams in the preseason, even before the auction this year, just by virtue of who was managing them.
I feel good about the Tigers as well, but yeah.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to do this interview with me today, guys. I hope you have a wonderful day.
You too. Thanks for having us.
You too.